Here's a nice Wyndham Hotels journey over the past 2 weeks. And we'll say that this happened in Louisiana and Texas. So, about a month and a half ago, I had about 3 nights worth of points built up at Wyndham. But I was on the East Coast at the time and I logged in. And a lot of times I like to just pay cash and save the points, especially if the rates are decent. So they had a special where if you bought some points, they'd give you a 30% bonus. So, I looked at it and I was like, well, I might as well do it because I'm going to be traveling at some point over the next couple years and they don't expire for 4 years. So I said, I'll just take advantage of this offer. So the most you could buy was like 90,000 points and it cost me $1,170. But you got 30% bonus points on that. So whatever the normal rate for points was at $1,170, you also got 30% more. So I was good. Put them in there. Paid cash a couple times on the East Coast while saving those points. But about 2 weeks ago, I wanted to start using some points, or at least a little bit of them, just for financial purposes. I didn't want to spend my money at that point in time. So I had enough for 19 nights for 7,500 points a night, which is the lowest tier, but you can get some good hotels on the low tier. So the lowest amount of points you can use is 7,500. So I was always looking for 7,500. So a place I'd stayed before in Louisiana was 7,500 a night, and I was staying at a Choice Hotels property for 3 or 4 days before that near New Orleans. But about an hour away, there was a place that I'd stayed before that was a Wyndham property, and it was only 7,500 points. And a lot of the other places that were Wyndham properties in the area were 15,000 points. So I said, man, this is a really good deal because this hotel, to me, was just as good as the other ones, and it was only half the points. And it kind of stood out in a good way. So I'd stayed there before. So about 9 or 10 o'clock one night, I think it was actually right before 11 o'clock. I went to make a reservation for 7 or 8 nights. It was at least a week. I might have been doing 8 nights, but it was at least 7 nights. And I was going to use my points, and I had about 147,000 points. So I had 19 nights, and I was going to use 7 or 8 of them right there. So I went to press submit and do my reservation for the next night. And it said, you do not have enough points for this reservation. So by the time I figured out I better call, it was just past 11. I call Wyndham, the 800 number, and they say, customer service, the office closes at 11 p.m. So I was like, that's hard to believe, but no big deal, right? So I'll just call the next day. So I wake up and I was checking out of the hotel I was in at the time the next morning, and I said, well, I'll call and do this before I even leave the hotel. So I called up, and apparently they just wanted to verify some information with me because I had been doing a little bit of traveling, mostly using cash or, use my debit card. But for whatever reason, they wanted to verify it was me or something. I don't know what it was, but that was easy enough. I called up the next day and I told them about my issue, and they go, okay, yeah, I see what the issue is. Your account was blocked. Let me talk to my supervisor. So they came back on and then just, asked me my birth date and phone number and just simple verification stuff. It really wasn't an issue. So she said, well, do you want me to do that reservation for you now while you're on the line, or do you want to do it yourself? And I was like, I'll do it myself. I'll let you get off the phone. We were on the phone for about 5 or 6 minutes, and just to free up the customer service. And then I said, well, I'll just do it myself because I want to make sure that the online is even working. Even though she said it was working, I wanted to make sure. So I hang up the phone and I do my reservation, but I say, well, I'm just going to do it for 3 nights, and then when I get there, and I knew I liked the place because I'd stayed there before, I'll just extend in a day or two, but I wanted to make sure the system was working. So I did the 3 nights using my points at 7,500 a night. So I drive up, it was about an hour away, 50 minutes away, and in Louisiana, and check in later on that day, and I'm just making small talk with them. I'm like, hey, I stayed here before. It's great. How come you guys are 7,500 points when all these other places around here that are Wyndham are 15,000? And those places I don't even think are as nice, or at least a lot of them aren't even as nice as where I'm staying. And they were just kind of, hey, well, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, do you think I should extend now for the weekend, or do you guys get busy on the weekend? Because I knew I was going to extend. And like, oh, no, we always have rooms. You're going to be good. And I said, so you're saying, like, if I just extend in the next day or two for another 5 or 6 days, I'm definitely not going to be told that we're sold out or anything, that you're sold out. And they, oh, no. And then I said, what's funny? I was like, well, do you think I should extend right now because I'm using points, or because what are the, the 1 in a million chance that they raise it up to 15,000 points, and it was 7,500 when I've been doing it for the last year and a half or so. And we were all laughing about that, you know what I mean? So, well, I said, what are the odds of that, right? So about a day or two later, the original reservation's 3 days. A day or two later, I go to extend, and I'm going to do 5 nights or so. And to my horror, the points are now 15,000, if you can believe that. So I kind of stormed downstairs and just kind of like go to the front desk, and it was someone else was there at the time, and I just kind of mumbled something like blah, 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 and kind of told them the quick story about what I just told you on this video. And, they just seemed to not really care, and they were like, wow, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it goes higher, but it's never been 15,000 points. And I have a feeling, because I opened my mouth and was talking the place up and giving them compliments, that someone probably just said, well, we're the only 7,500 points place here. You might as well raise us up to 15. So whatever. I took the loss there, but I wasn't pretty happy because I was theoretically going to stay there a couple weeks. I had all those points, and I didn't want to spend money because I'd already spent the money for the points a month earlier. So that's okay, though. At some point, you just say, that's your bad bounce for the day, for the week, or whatever, and you take the loss as a human being, and you don't blame anybody, but you just kind of kick yourself because you're never quite sure whether you opened your mouth, if that caused it or not. And why didn't you just extend originally? But what are the odds that they're going to boost that thing up to 15,000 when it's been 7,500 for years? Well, whatever. Like I said, that issue is done. So I decided to drive west, and I'm going through Texas, and it's like 100 degrees. I go through Louisiana into Texas, and this is last Monday. Today's Friday, so I'm looking for places in Texas. At this point, I still have 16 nights worth of $7,500 points because I'd used 3 in Louisiana. And then I stayed a couple days at a Choice Hotels property after that. So, it's like 100 and some degrees, really. It's really hot through Louisiana and Texas. And so I'm coming in to Texas, and I'm like, all right, let me start looking for the best places to use. I'm going to do 75, and I'm going to do, like 4 or 5 nights here to start off, just to take a break and reset. It's kind of hot. I don't really want to be traveling all over the place and hopping around, even though, you get air conditioning in the room and in the car. It's just, you just don't want to be bopping around everywhere. And so I did 4 nights at a place that had a pretty good review compared to the others. It just seemed like a little bit higher, and you could tell it was clean in that. And I used my points for 4 nights, so that cost me like 30,000 points, 7,500 a night. And so I check in, and I was like, this is before I even went to my room. So I check in, and I say, well, if I decide to extend, now this is Monday when I'm checking in. If I decide to extend, how late do I have, excuse me, to let you know that? I just want to make sure that, like, if I decide to extend in a couple days, that you're not going to be like, oh, we're sold out. So, like, blah, blah. And it's like, he's like, well, we sell out on the weekends pretty quick. I said, well, if I come down here by Wednesday, and this was Monday when I'm checking in, will I be good then? And he looked at the computer real quick. Yeah, you're good. So I said, okay. So, I get into the room, and I say, well, this is great. It was nice and big and had a full fridge, flat screen TV, air conditioner worked fine. And I could just kind of tell that this was a cut above the normal. It wasn't so good, but it was still what I was expecting. But you could just tell there were no defects here. If anything, all the surprises were positive. You open up the fridge, and you can see it right there. You open up the fridge, it's sparkling clean, and you get the little things like there's no dirt anywhere, no dirt on the remote, nothing out of order. So it was pretty good. So that night, I just said to myself, well, man, it's so brutally hot, you wouldn't even understand. Like when you step outside, even if you step out to get something from your car, you feel like you got to take a shower when you come back in. And if you go to the store, you 100% got to take a shower when you come back, because even though you have air in the car, that's how nasty it is just walking from the car to the grocery store. So like that night, which was Monday night, I decided I extended. So basically I went in and I was already paid up with points till Friday, which is 4 nights. And so this is Monday night. I check in Monday afternoon. And so I just went in, and on a computer, I did a reservation for today, which is my original checkout, which is the 11th, through the 16th, which is next Wednesday. Confirmed everything. It used the points and everything. So that was an additional 5 nights to the 4 that I already had. And I did that immediately. So the next day I went to the grocery store, and before I did, I was like, well, I just extended. I like the room, I extended. Do you want to update those keys now, or what do you do? And they're like, well, no, just come back on Friday when you're checking out. Just stop in, and then you just gotta kind of re-sign the thing, an initial, and we'll update the keys then. I was like, okay, cool. I just want, just checking if they wanted to update the keys. And I was like, well, can you go in the system and check to see, just to make sure I did the reservation correctly? I know I did, but same hotel, everything's good, just so I know that I'm good till next Wednesday. And all I have to do is just come in and update the key on Friday. So this is just Tuesday, a day after my original reservation. And they looked it up and they said, oh yeah, at this point it was a lady. He said, oh yeah, it's in there. And it's like, okay, I'll see you guys Friday, blah, blah, blah. Everything's great. Just kind of relaxing this week, doing a reset, just trying to stay in one place for a while and enjoy myself. So I wake up today. So I assume the checkout's at 11 here, but I wake up at a little after 10 and sleeping in a little bit, and says, well, I better go down and update those keys. And I know I'm in the system, and I got my room cleaned yesterday, the only day I asked for it to be clean, and I even told the manager down there, well, I'm here till next Wednesday, so I'm going to do a cleaning today. And the other days when they've asked, I was like, no, because they don't really have to do it, but if you could do it almost every day or every other day if you really wanted it, but I don't really need the cleaning. So yesterday I went down, and there was an additional person there, a new lady, and I said, well, just could you give me a cleaning today? I'm gonna go to the store, blah blah blah. And that would probably be the one cleaning I'd have in the 8 or 9 days that I would be here. And so, long story short, when I go down there today, it was a little after 10, and I was like, well, I just better threw my hat on, brushed my teeth, and didn't take a shower or anything, but just went down there and just to update the keys and get some water and diet soda out of the car, just Then I was going to come back in and take a shower and relax, because I'm here for another 5 days. So I go in to the lobby, and the manager comes out, and there was no one else in there behind the desk. It was just him, but he came out like within 10 or 20 seconds. And I said, yeah, this is my name, this is my room number, and I was originally supposed to check out till today, and I extended till next Friday, but I've already spoken to everybody, and I extended days ago, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, you can't use points for more than 3 nights at a time. And I said, what do you mean? I said, I just did 4 nights, and I've already extended an additional 5, and I used points, and no one said anything to me the whole time. Every conversation I had, which was just, easy conversations while I was down there, no one said a thing to me. And he said, well, no, we have a limit. You can't use points for more than 3 at a time. So you gotta go to another hotel. And I was like, what are you talking about? I said, that's, no one's ever said that. Well, that's not Wyndham's policy. I've done more than 3 before at other places. And plus no one even told me anyways. And even if that was the rule, I just did 4 nights. And no one even, you had like 3 or 4 days to tell me if you had an issue. You can't tell me 30 minutes before checkout, 45 minutes before checkout, that, whatever. So I don't know if this guy's about ready to like knock on my door and try to kick me out at 11 or whatever. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I said, well, I'm just gonna sit down here. You can call the manager or call corporate. I'm gonna sit down and you can figure it out. And I just held my ground. So I sat down and he goes, well, I am the manager. I said, so what are you telling me? He's saying, well, no, the rule is you can't use more than 3 nights for points. I said, what are you talking? I just did 4, and I extended, and I spoke to 2 or 3 people in the 4 or 5 days that I've been here. I knew the reservation was in the system. No one from Wyndham said anything. The reservation's right here, and so I said, okay, we'll see what happens. And so at this point, I'm hot. I'm pissed. I mean, it's Friday. It's the worst time. It's the worst day of the week to go look for a new place. It's 100 degrees out. And what am I going to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if I don't have the money for a new reservation? And so, like, I got all these points here. So I call the only number that I had on my phone recently for Wyndham, and I don't know if it was the correct number or not, but like at this point, this guy can't really even help me. He goes, I'll file a complaint and we'll get back to you within a week. I said, you don't understand. I just went down there and they're telling me that I can't stay here. What are they going to do? I said, I'll call the cops, and then I'll call the newscast, and then I'm calling an attorney. And then he said, well, let me transfer you to someone in the reservations. Like, I thought that's who I was calling originally. So then I call the reservations. And I explained the story, and I started the story all the way through from about like what happened in the last 10 days about the place in Louisiana where all of a sudden it cost twice as much points for the first time ever just because I opened my mouth in all likelihood, and no one wanted to help me there. And so like I'm on there for like 45 minutes talking to him, and I'm telling him, I said, listen, you do not understand. I'm not leaving here, and this is where I'm planting a flag. I'm not going to have somebody who, by definition, had to have known I had that new reservation for 5 days, and he had to have known that days in advance of the Friday when I'm checking out, because I did the reservation on like the night that I moved in, and I spoke with 2 separate other people in the office this week about it, and no one said anything. And then you're going to tell me that I'm supposed to go down there and this guy's supposed to spring it on me like, oh, you're not allowed to stay, and he doesn't tell me that till I come in. So I talked for like 45 minutes. Now it's 10 to 11. Now, in a way, I was probably panicking too much, so I'm not sure that they would have been like throwing me out. But maybe. I don't know what's going on here, and for all I know, someone's going to be knocking on the door at 11, and my worst case scenario is I got to take a shower, load up all this stuff. I just went to the grocery store yesterday, get it out of here, find a new reservation, make sure I have enough money for a new reservation on a Friday to boot. It's a total disaster. So like it's like 10 to 11 at this point. And finally I'm winding down the phone call with the with the lady in reservations, because she had put me on hold and she was trying to work it out. And then when she came back, she said, well, here's what the manager's going to do. He's going to let you stay here tonight through the 16th. Like, when she said it, I thought she was saying you can only stay tonight. And then, so like, I mean, like at this point, my head's like spinning. I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do about these other points? And so like, how quick are you going to put those back into my account, blah, blah, blah. And what do you think I should be doing about this? Are you kidding me? And I didn't really know what she was saying, but then she finally talked over me a little bit and convinced me, oh no, you don't understand. You're going to be able to stay till the 16th. You know what I mean? But if you want to extend after that, you got what? I don't know. Who cares after that, right? So, okay. All right. I was like, cool. And then I talked for a couple more minutes, and then I just let her off the phone. I'd been on the phone for like just short of an hour at that point, maybe 45, 50 minutes. So no sooner did I get off the phone there, the manager's calling me like at exactly the same time I'm hanging up with the phone in the room, and he's like, hey, this is the manager. We're just wanted to let you know that we're gonna let you stay till next Wednesday, blah blah blah. I mean, I've already paid my points, and I paid cash for the points, so they're not letting me do anything. They're avoiding a big problem with me. So then I was like, well, let me just say, well, why didn't you? I said, well, you say that the three's the limit. I said, Wyndham didn't say I asked them, and they said that's not a limit. He said, oh no, that's just our policy, and they screwed it up where they shouldn't have allowed you to do it online and do over the whatever. But I just did 4, and no one said anything, and they knew I had another 5 for 4 days, and no one knocked. I said, well, why didn't you just call me or knock on my door in the last 3 or 4 days? You knew I had that upcoming reservation. You're gonna come down. I'm gonna come down there, barely waking up, and a little bit disoriented, and just run into my car to get some waters and stuff. And I'm going to run into the lobby just to update my keys, and you're going to spring that on me, like with less than an hour till checkout. And he's like, well, no. Then he was like, well, we don't like to kick anyone out. So I don't know if they were saying we would have never kicked you out or not, but I have no idea what they were going to do. And I was thinking about calling the police and just planting my flag. And I'm an easygoing customer. I'm like, I make it easy for everybody, but this was outrageous. And so then I ended up going back down there to update my keys, and the guy was kind of like standing outside the lobby talking to his worker, and one of them was his wife, who apparently was working the other day, and she had seen my reservation and didn't say anything to me about the points. And they were probably talking about me at the time, but I walked up on them and just was smiling. I was like, we're all good, and all stuff like that. And so, like, as it turns out, I'm good with this guy, and I'm good with this place, and I'm here till next Wednesday. But, it's just, the whole thing's outrageous, you know what I mean? And I'm still thinking that, I think Wyndham in general has to pay some type of price for this to me over the last couple of weeks. I'm willing to take that first one in Louisiana where they boosted the price on me, which I'll never be able to prove they did it because I said that. But it's just outrageous there, and it would have never happened unless if they had a block on my account originally when I went to do the 7 or 8 nights right off the bat. So I had to wait till the next day, and then one thing led to another, and then I only did 3 nights. Then they boosted points up. Like I said, it's all in the story that I'm telling you now. But so now I'm just laying down, and I'm just saying that, like, it's just a total disaster. So, like, for an hour today, I'm totally aggravated and anxious and panicky and sour at the world. And, like, you just can't treat the customers like this. And the customer, who no one could argue that, at least on this part, forget about the part that where the first hotel a week and a half ago, they boosted the points, they doubled the points right in the middle of my trip and didn't even give a shit. But this one here, like, I make a reservation for 4 nights with my points. I check in. That night, I extend for 5 more days, and then the next 2 days, I spoke to someone in the office running in there quickly. The reservation was in there, everything was good. And then they all know that I have a new reservation with points. Because when I made the new reservation, the first night I was here, I used the points. They all know that's how it's getting paid. And then they expect me to go down there. What if I didn't go down there, right? What if I didn't decide to go down there at all until like 2 o'clock and update my keys, which some people would do. You don't have to update your keys before 11. Are they going to be knocking on my door? What if I'm sleeping? What if it's just a shocking situation. And, people can argue this is first world problems, and there are a lot of first world problems, but you would think that in society, if you have enough money, or if you're booked up with a room, like, sometimes you think, all right, I'm covered till next Wednesday, no matter what happens in my life. I got a refrigerator full of food. Excuse me. I got a refrigerator full of food, and I got my points, and I'm covered till next Wednesday. And so, like, you wouldn't even have to have $10 on you theoretically. Now, I do have more than that, but, like, sometimes the unexpected really happens. Like, of course, anything could happen. You could have a police event, a fire, and so, like, you can have surprises. I remember when COVID hit, I was in a hotel in Las Vegas for 9 days, and I was already paid up. And on the second night, they put a letter under everyone's door. You have to be out by the next day because the governor of Nevada closed down everything in Las Vegas and Nevada, like, that night. And so I was basically stranded because I was out there, and I just sold my car that week, and I had a whole 9 days. I was buying a new car in Nevada, in Las Vegas. I actually was going to title it in California, but there's a California DMV within 90 minutes there. So, like, I'm thinking I had money, or enough to get a car anyways. I got 9 days to find a new car on Craigslist. This is what I was buying, kind of cheap cars back then. Well, who would have ever dreamed that they'd shut down Las Vegas for the first time ever? And so, like, sometimes you think you're covered, and these seemingly one in a million type situations creep up on you. And so But it's just an interesting story. I'm not blaming everybody, but you always got to have backups. Now, I did have backups, so, I have points at another hotel. I still have extra points at the Wyndham, but if I didn't have any money and all I had was a refrigerator full of food and seemingly a reservation that was good till next Wednesday, and if this guy actually would have had the power to deny me this new reservation, then all of a sudden I'm in a bad spot. And what if I was like a single woman with like 3 kids? It's 100 degrees out there. Maybe they're in a situation where she left an abusive house or something like that. So like, it's just interesting how these situations can happen. So you always got to have multiple safety nets for these one-off situations. But I just think Wyndham has an issue. Their customer service number closes at 11. You can't speak to a live operator. And so now this is back-to-back issues on my last 2 stays at Wyndham. And actually, it's the 3rd in a row, because when I was on the East Coast, I was staying at a Days Inn. And I noticed a $31 charge that came out of nowhere. It was totally separate from the 2 reservations I'd had, because I had paid cash for those. And then like all of a sudden there was a new $30 charge, $31.47. And I called the people up, and then, of course, the manager wasn't there that day. I called the next day. Hell, they probably give me COVID here, talking again. Probably got COVID from all those people today. So I spoke to the lady, and I said, well, obviously this is how much the first reservation cost, and this is how much the second one cost. What's the $31 charge? This was a month ago. Well, I still haven't heard back from her. And the charge is still there, and I know it's a faulty charge. So we're talking 3 for 3 on Wyndham, so maybe I'm done with Wyndham.